Leaning against the door, Noel thinks with despair that he could barely restrain himself from attacking her. The captain could never have imagined that the girl was actually a wolf. The man doesn't know what to do. Rage and unconscious power cloud his mind, driving him crazy. Meanwhile, at the house, Rachel grabs Eve and tells Zion that it's time for them to get ready for bed. The girl thinks that this way Eva will have time to return to her real appearance in a calm environment. In bed, the wolf licks the girl's face, thinking that she could not have survived if Rachel had not stopped her brother. The girl really hopes that if she gives herself a little time, she will be able to return to her previous appearance. Sometime later, Noel enters the room and is relieved to notice that the girl has become human again. Straightening the blanket, the captain thinks about how much Eve worried when she realized that she had turned into a wolf. The man is wondering how the girl will react if she finds out that he guessed everything. For some reason, Noel is sure that if Eva finds out, she will run for her life. The captain thinks that if Eve were the wolf from the legend, he would have to take her heart to save his life. But since a man is in love with a girl and wants to be with her, everything becomes noticeably more complicated. Noel realizes that all his hidden feelings are starting to come out. He doesn't want to hurt Eve. He wants to be with her forever. The captain realizes that in order for his plans to come true, he needs to do something. Stroking the girl on the cheek, the captain understands that in order for the girl to choose him, he must become the one she likes. Suddenly, Eva grabs Noel by the hand, and at that moment he realizes that his only heart beats for her. Eve finally wakes up, realizing that it is already morning, and notices that today is much warmer than usual. Sitting up in bed, the girl is amazed to see that Noel is sitting next to the bed, who is holding her hand in his sleep. The girl cannot believe that he spent the whole night like this, fearing that she would catch a cold again. Suddenly, Eva begins to feel herself and hopes that the captain did not see her ears and tail. Suddenly, it occurs to the girl that Noel might tie her up and interrogate her as soon as she wakes up. Eve notices that the man has woken up and, embarrassed, wishes him good morning. The captain explains that Eva's body temperature dropped last night after her walk and asks if she is cold now. In fright, the girl clutches at straws and says that she really walked all night. After seeing Noel off, Eve turns to Rachel and asks if she would like to go with her brother, since her memory has returned. The girl looks pleadingly at her sister and assures that she doesn't remember anything. The captain realizes that this is all very strange, and Eve says that in this case, Rachel will have to stay with them. The girl once again asks for forgiveness for causing Noel so much trouble, but the man assures that everything is fine. The captain is surprised to hear Eve say that if he needs help, all he has to do is say so. Eve assures that Noel can ask her for absolutely anything. In that case, the captain says, could Eva stroke his hair? Rachel is surprised that her brother is so persistent today. She doesn't know what he's up to, but she needs to help him. The girl declares that Zion is calling her and she urgently needs to go see him. Eve looks after Rachel in bewilderment, realizing that she is very embarrassed to be alone with Noel. The man states that the entire time he was holding the girl's hand, he felt colder. Eva blushes and says that in this case, they should hold hands more often. The captain states that this is a good idea, but it would be better if she stroked his hair. Seeing the girl's confusion, Noel says that he is asking for too much, but he can't forget that cool moment when they were together. The girl puts her hands on the man's head and asks if this is what he wanted. Suddenly, Eva notices with surprise that at that moment her heart was beating faster. What an irony! The she-wolf pets the dragon captain, and at the same time her heart beats faster. A few days later, Eva tells the children that they should not take off their capes in the square. The children sat at home for a long time, and the girl decided to take them for a walk, on the condition that they would not leave her side. Suddenly, Zion notices a bookstore and asks her sister to go there together. The girl thinks that it would be nice to buy several books about the human world. In the store, children look around in complete delight, their mouths open. Also looking around, Eva thinks that she needs to make sure that the children do not take off their capes. Suddenly, a girl walks past a stand with new products and notices an adult novel. Glancing through the book, Eva remembers that before her rebirth, she also read a novel in which the main character loved to shed tears in the eyes of his beloved. Since she now has a lot of free time, maybe it's worth buying this novel. Eva approaches the stand with books about the human world and is surprised to notice that it is almost empty. The girl turns to the seller, wondering if all the books about people have already been sold. The man turns and asks in surprise whether the girl really doesn't know that such books have been banned. The seller says that this all happened due to mass illegal migration into the human world. The man says that the human king was very angry, so before the situation got worse, the books were withdrawn from sale. Eva bought a book that she doesn't really need and thinks that now she has absolutely no idea what to do next. Rachel watches Eve in surprise, wondering what she's up to. Making her way into the room, the girl thinks that she heard a conversation about the world of people. So did Eva really decide to move there? Rachel understands that if this happens, they will never see each other again, which means this must be prevented at all costs. The girl summons her fiery phoenix with a wave of her hand and declares that she has a request. Rachel points to the shelf and asks the bird to bring her the book Eve bought this morning. Since the girl didn't tell anyone about the book, it means it's connected with her plans and you definitely need to find out what she's thinking about. Taking the book in her hands, Rachel realizes in bewilderment that this is a novel for adults. The girl begins to read the book with great amazement, not believing that Eva is really like that. Showing the pages to Phoenix, Rachel tells him to remember this passage and pass it on to his brother. Seeing that the bird is hesitating, the girl shouts that everything must be handed over right now. Reading a tearful romance novel, Noel cannot believe that Eva has such preferences. Since the captain intends to please the girl in everything, he must make every effort to become an attractive crybaby. Suddenly, Noel sees his sister's phoenix rapidly flying into the window. An image of the sister appears, and she assures that the brother must immediately find out what Eve's ideal type is. The sister shows an excerpt from the girl's book and declares that this is the kind of man she likes. The captain resolutely opens the doors, realizing that now is not the time to learn to cry, but it is better to go and find out everything from Eva herself. The servant catches up with Noel and asks where he is going for the night, to which the owner replies that he needs to go north. The young man is perplexed because the captain just returned from there and is flying away again. The servant reminds that an important meeting is scheduled for tomorrow. Noel assures that he will be back soon. Looking at the flying dragon, the young man does not understand what has appeared in the north, since the captain flies there every day. The children call Eva, who is sitting nearby, and ask her to play with them. The girl waves her hand and asks not to pay attention to her, but to enjoy the game. Last night, Eva was so engrossed in reading a new novel that she completely forgot about time. All night she was tormented by a flame raging in her chest. It seemed that the main character Hyena was not her type, but the plot excited her. Eve reasons that it's not that she likes healthy guys, she would rather prefer someone who can evoke compassion in her. If a girl could choose, it would be someone like Noel. Suddenly Eva hears a strange sound, a strong wind blows, and everything around begins to tremble. Noel cleans himself up and is surprised to notice Eve standing next to her. The girl looks at the captain in surprise and asks if they agreed to meet today. Noel remembers Cyan's words about his sister's sympathies and then remembers the plot from the book. The captain doesn't understand how it will be right, but in any case, you need to try. In a sad voice, the man says that all night he had a fire raging in his chest, so he came all this way to come to her. Eve is completely confused by the man's words and cannot understand where he is going with this. Noel leans his face closer to Eve and soulfully asks her to cool him down. Rachel watches her brother in complete amazement and wonders what the hell he's doing. The girl whispers that she clearly told him how he should behave with Eva in order to win her heart. Looking at Noel, Rachel indignantly thinks that she gave him the perfect tip, but he still made a mistake. Realizing that the girl is not looking at Cyan at all, the boy turns around and says that he will no longer play with her. As he leaves, Cyan thinks with tears in his eyes that it was different before, but now Rachel has completely forgotten about him. Deciding that he can entertain himself, Zion says that now, even if the girl asks, he will not play with her. Suddenly the boy stops, noticing some unusual thing in the snow. The mysterious stranger watches as Zion bends down, picking up the item. Eva embarrassedly says that no matter how hot Noel is, he shouldn't unbutton his shirt. The man lowers his eyes, realizing that the hyena's style does not suit him, which is why Eve does not like him. The girl strokes the captain's cheek, saying that last time he felt noticeably better when she touched him. Noel thinks that if he wants to win a girl's heart, he must do everything to learn more about his type. Embarrassed, the man says that if Eva doesn't like it when people blush with shame, then next time he will try to hide it. The girl looks intently at Noel. For the first time in her life, she met her ideal, and he turned out to be a dragon. Zion examines the bottle and notices a very beautiful stone inside, the color of Rachel's eyes. Suddenly, a young man comes out from behind a tree and waves his hand at the boy in a friendly manner. Sean notices that the guy has a strange smile, and the stranger assures him that he is not a bad person. The boy remembers his sister's words that you need to be more careful with those who have narrow eyes. Zion looks at the young man with huge eyes and declares that, by order of his sister, he is not allowed to communicate with strangers. Taking off his hood, the guy thinks that this little brat will be difficult to fool. However, the young man reflects, fooling vigilant children is his strong point. Sean runs up to the stranger and shouts that his hair color has changed. Seeing the surprise on Zion's face, the guy says that this is his ability because she is a chameleon. Stretching out his hands, which turn green, the young man says that they can change their color at any time. Looking at how delighted the boy is looking at him, the stranger understands that resistance has been broken, and now he can get down to business. The guy points to Zion's hand and asks what he has in his fist. The boy immediately shows the bottle and says that he accidentally found it in the snow. Noticing that the bottle is very warm, the chameleon suggests that Zion give it to his dear sister. Looking at the boy with a smile, the guy says that he knows a place full of such things. Suddenly, Zion, to the great amazement of the chameleon, begins to cry sadly. The young man asks in horror what happened, and the boy replies that his sister likes Rachel better. Zion tells how Eve said that Rachel was very warm and could be cuddled with every day. Watching the girls interact, Zion felt like a lonely, cold boy. Looking at the stone, the boy asks if his sister will hug him if he has it. Zion begins to cry, saying that Eve doesn't love him anymore and no stone can change that. The chameleon, completely not expecting such a reaction, awkwardly tries to calm the boy down. Also starting to cry, the guy assures Zion that it is simply impossible that his sister could stop loving him. The young man says that a brother should not be offended by his sister. She may not show it, but deep down she loves him very much. Zion looks at the bottle, and the guy assures that his sister will be very happy with such a warm gift. Looking at the boy, the chameleon understands that it is time to return to work and finish the task. The young man remembers that many dragons are counting on him. The chameleon continues to unobtrusively put thoughts into Zion's head that he should give the bottle to his sister. Suddenly, the young man looks up and notices a little girl who is rapidly approaching them. Rachel looks at the young man in amazement and asks why he was here. Immediately, the girl's attention turns to Zion, and she asks why he left again without saying a word. Angry, Rachel says that the boy is not helping anyway, and he also left silently. The boy obediently stands next to the girl, and she asks who the person he was sitting with is. Looking at the stranger, Rachel demands to tell him everything he knows. Until the chameleon went north, everyone was sitting on pins and needles, since not only the young lady disappeared, but the captain also did not return from the north. One of the servants remarks that it looks like Noel is raising a pet in the north. The young people do not understand whether the speaker is joking or whether the captain is really raising a wolf. While there is an active discussion, the chameleon sleeps carefree, sitting nearby. Suddenly a scroll flies to Carmel, and he hears an order that he must go north. The man angrily says that he has repeatedly ordered people not to sleep at meetings. The young man states that as soon as the captain heads north again, Carmel will have to keep an eye on him. The young man holds out the bottle and says that the chameleon should get close to the one with whom the captain is communicating and give it to him. The bottle contains a stone purified by the captain's inner power, and for an ordinary person it can be fatal. This stone has more power added to it, and Carmel must make sure Rachel doesn't touch it, since the fire attribute is similar to her flame. If the woman the captain met is worthy of becoming his life partner, then by touching the stone, she will absorb all its power. The young man adds that if an ordinary person touches the stone, he will not be able to control it and will burn to the ground. Carmel understands that if she tells her everything, the truth will clearly anger her. Rachel is surprised to hear an apology and an explanation that the dragons have no choice, since she and the captain have been missing for a long time. The girl looks at the bottle and cannot believe that these scumbags used her brother to test her sister. Eve has always been very kind to Rachel, and the girl in no way wants to put her in danger. Turning to Zion, Rachel demands to immediately give her the vial with the stone. Looking at the thing, the girl says that it is a very dangerous thing and it is better if it stays with her. The boy meekly gives Rachel the bottle, and Carmel clutches her head in horror. Realizing that the young lady is in danger, the guy runs up to the children and deftly snatches the bottle. Rachel, furious, tries to jump, screaming for the dragon to give her the stone immediately. Carmel understands that if everything continues like this, sooner or later the bottle will end up with the mistress. Realizing that he has no choice, the guy decides that the only correct solution is to swallow the stone. Rachel runs as fast as she can towards the young man, shouting that he is an idiot and should immediately spit out the stone. In desperation, the girl screams that if the guy doesn't spit it out, his life will be in danger. Carmel covers her mouth, thinking that it will be much more dangerous if the stone ends up with the mistress. Summoning fire, Rachel declares that if the young man does not spit out the stone, then she will have to resort to force. Carmel swallows the stone, and the children watch as the monstrous force begins to consume the young man. Carmel, in desperation, reaches out to Rachel and begs the young mistress to help him. The girl watches what is happening in confusion, realizing that what is happening is completely terrible. The fear, which the girl had already forgotten about, began to flare up in her again. The whole mosquito thing reminded Rachel of the old days that raged in the north. Suddenly, Zion runs up to the girl and grabs her hand, looking intently into her eyes. The boy tells Rachel not to be afraid, because he will do anything to protect her. The girl sees that her brother himself is trembling with fear, but at the same time he is still trying to save her. Realizing that she needs to pull herself together, Rachel asks Zion to stand behind her. By summoning the flame, the mistress warns Carmel that he will be in a little pain. At this moment, the young man receives a powerful blow to the forehead with ice, and then a cry is heard that he is a scumbag. Carmel looks in surprise at the ice stone under her feet and cannot understand where it came from. Eva rushes towards the stranger, shouting that in order to destroy their peaceful life, he came all the way deep into the forest. Trembling with rage, the girl declares that no one will dare touch her children. Eva grabs the offender by the collar and asks who he thinks he is. The girl continues to attack, but then Rachel rushes to her and says that this is very dangerous. Suddenly, Eva freezes, feeling that Carmel's body is unusually hot. The girl abruptly pulls her hand away, and her clothes begin to smoke at the point of contact. Noel runs up to Eve, but she says that everything is fine, only the clothes are a little singed. Looking at the dying young man, the captain asks in surprise what the hell Carmel is doing here. The man examines the young man and says that judging by his condition, he ate a red stone. Eve looks at Noel in surprise and asks who this young man is and why he came here. The captain, puzzled, says that it was most likely the stone containing his power. Looking at Carmel's condition, one can assume that there was a lot of force, and if nothing is done, his life will be in danger. Clenching his fist, Noel realizes that he can't do anything because his power will only make things worse. Suddenly, Eve, despite the danger, sits down near Carmel and tries to cool him down using the power of ice. The girl declares that she cannot simply give up and let the young man die. Eva is confident that her magic can take the heat out of the guy, which means it's definitely worth a try. Sometime later, Carmel wakes up, clutching her head and trying to remember what happened. Turning his head around in surprise, the young man realizes that he is not dead. A beautiful girl enters the room and tenderly asks if he is all right. Eve notices that Carmel does not have a fever, and the young man is sure that in front of him is a real angel. The girl hands the guy a cup of broth and says that he will remove the remaining heat. Carmel is sure that he has found himself in heaven, where there are no bosses and no work problems. Raising the cup to his mouth, the young man suddenly hears an incredibly familiar voice. Turning to the door, Carmel looks straight into her captain's eyes with horror. Seeing that the guy has woken up, Noel declares that he wants to listen to the guy's excuses. Carmel falls to his knees and desperately asks for forgiveness, saying that they only wanted to bring him home. Taking the young man by the shoulder, Noel says that he understands the experiences of his subjects, but that is not the main problem. Bringing his head closer to Carmel, the captain is furious and says that Eva and the children almost got hurt. Carmel throws herself on the floor and screams in repentance that he is very sorry about everything that happened. The young man declares that he is ready to atone for his sin with his life, and the returning Eve asks why this is necessary. Noel understands that he needs to show his good side and cannot let what happened ruin everything. Touching Carmel's forehead, the captain declares that he has a fever again, and it is better for him to lie down again. Looking at Noel, Carmel does not understand why the captain is pretending like this. Carmel thinks about everything, thinking that ice magic is an ability of wolves. Suddenly, the guy asks Eve if she used magic to remove that heat from his body. Without waiting for an answer, Carmel bluntly asks Eve if her magic means anything, that she's a wolf. The girl in despair thinks that as soon as she meets someone from the south, everything ends with the same questions. Suddenly, Zion runs into the room and says that he was very surprised when his friend fell. Ava is relieved that this time her little brother showed up on time. Rachel rushes to the girl and asks her for a hug because she is feeling very hot. Looking at her brother, the girl understands that he needs help because he can't cope on his own. Calling Noel with signs, the girl says that she feels better, but that's not all. Rachel says that her brother is also very hot and therefore they need to hug together. Carmel watches the scene unfold and feels completely confused. The guy asks what kind of relationship they have, and Rachel immediately says that Eva is her sister. Turning to Carmel, the girl declares with a smile that, among other things, Eva is her brother's friend. The girl is confused. In order to call her a friend, there must be something between her and Noel. The girl calls on herself to pull herself together and think carefully. Perhaps Rachel meant friendly relations. Zion states that since his sister is now the captain's girlfriend, he can call Carmel his friend. The young man embarrassedly says that judging by the way the young lady treats them, they cannot be wolves. Eve examines Noel and realizes that he is not at all surprised by his sister's words. The girl decides that Rachel is just a child, and she could not put any other meaning into her words. Carmel is about to leave, and Eva hospitably invites him to stay for dinner. The young man assures that he is in a hurry and will definitely have something to eat on the way. The girl cannot believe that she has met so many Southerners in such a short time. Looking at the captain, Eva says that she is interested in some question. The girl asks if it is possible that Southerners and Northerners use the same words but put different meanings into them. Noel doesn't answer the question, but suddenly notices that Rachel has disappeared somewhere. The captain is sure that the girl went to see Carmel off, and Eva says that she will go around the neighborhood just in case. Realizing that the man avoided answering, the girl comes to the conclusion that this word means nothing to him. Carmel walks through the forest, saying in surprise that it turns out the captain has a girlfriend. The young man is confident that, in other words, Eve is the master's future life partner. The guy wants to return home as soon as possible and tell the people of the South that everything will change soon. Suddenly, Carmel nearly falls as flames surround him on all sides. The young man is surprised to realize that this is nothing more than the little lady's phoenix. Turning around, Carmel assures the captain that he will return to the South as soon as possible and tell everyone about the benefactress. Noel calmly asks what his subject thinks of Eve's power. The young man admits that the girl has the most powerful ice magic he has ever seen. The guy assures that Eva needs to be brought south as soon as possible, but the captain notes that some preparations need to be made first. Noel invites Carmel to imagine what Eve would do if the dragon suddenly forced her to go south with him. The young man assures that he will talk to the people so that the benefactress and her brother will receive a worthy reception. Noel asks what the Southerners will think if Eve and Zion are presented as magicians from the north. Perhaps people will mistake them for wolves, since magicians often are. Carmel says that he will explain to the Southerners that the guests are not wolves, and in this way misunderstandings can be avoided. The captain says that he completely trusts this task to Carmel. It will be very difficult, but the guy must cope. The young man declares that he will try his best so that no one thinks that Eve and Zion are wolves. Noel looks at the servant trustingly and says that he is counting on him. Carmel reports to Hopper that he has met a man in the north who can control the captain's inner fire. The butler remarks that it is hard to believe that there is an ice mage he has never met. The man asks to tell him where the girl lives, because he himself must check whether this is a person. Hopper says he is going north because the situation seems more than strange to him. The butler recalls how in the past, the flames consumed the south and everyone was overcome with sadness. One day, the previous lord and his wife died from the uncontrollable power of the current lord. That day, Hopper swore that he would do anything for the young lord and young lady. To help Noel, the butler gathered the greatest ice magicians from all over the world and even entered into a secret conspiracy with the half-breed. But it was all in vain. And now a magician has suddenly appeared, capable of controlling the Lord's power, but most likely this is a trick of the vile wolves. The butler is determined that he must protect their master. At the bookstore, Eva says that she usually buys books here, but lately there hasn't been anything suitable. The girl remarks that it would be great if there were good children's books. The girl says that as soon as the store's assortment was reduced, she couldn't find anything suitable for herself. When Noel asks what books the girl is looking for, Eva replies that she would like to read about the human world. The girl explains that she wants to understand if there are those who can help get there. Eva thinks that it would be nice to learn how to pretend to be human and asks if there are many such books in the South. Approaching the captain, Eva notes that since he is the head of the South, he should have a personal library. Noel replies that he is not sure, since he has never been interested in this question. Eve again asks the man if it happens that the same word has different meanings depending on the situation. Looking at the captain, the girl gives the example of the word girlfriend and asks whether it can have different meanings. Eve notes that in the North it is applied to her brother's wife, but when Rachel said so, Noel and Carmel did not react to it. Without waiting for an answer, the girl says that she shouldn't have asked about it. The captain quietly replies that the word girlfriend practically means the same thing. Sitting away from the children, Eve realizes that she understood everything correctly. But why did she tell Rachel that? Looking at the girl's upset face, Noel says that he is sorry that she found herself in such an awkward situation. The man says that he had to correct his sister, but he could not say a word because he hoped that these words would become reality. Noel is sure that Eve must have noticed that he can't control his powers very well. Because of this, the captain endangered her and his men and also caused huge disasters in the South. Noel sadly says that all this is to blame because he was born with one heart. Eve notices that dragons are usually born with two hearts and can control their powers. The captain says that he caused the suffering of those who are next to him. Fear consumes him more and more, the more valuable he loses. The man cannot stop thinking that all this could happen again. Many magicians tried to help the young lord, but unfortunately nothing worked. As a result, the only solution was that the captain was forced to wear various restrictive devices. Noel admits that the stronger he gets, the harder it is for him to control. And then what happened was that the man met Eve, and when they touched each other, a sudden gust of all-consuming power enveloped him. Noel says that no one could control his power like she did, and in the end he can only childishly ask her to stroke his hair. The captain says that only from her touch can he feel such a rare cold for him. To summarize, the man says that this is why he did not object to what his sister said. Looking into the cup, Noel realizes that he did not dare admit how much he liked Eva's hug. The captain says that he caused trouble, but Ava replies with a smile that he can explain himself to that guy. Now the girl understands everything and is happy that her power, which she considered useless, can benefit Noel. In the book, Eve was a minor character who quickly disappeared from the plot. The girl thinks that she cannot agree to help Noel just because of her unimpressive sympathy for her. Since Rachel's memories have returned, she may well return home to the south. Eve herself must think about how she and her brother can get into the human world before it becomes even more difficult. The only thing she can do for Noel is hope that he finds his soulmate. Hopper is shivering violently and is angry that it's so damn cold up north. It was very careless of the butler not to think about the weather conditions prevailing in these parts. The man is angry because the damned wolves live in such a damned cold. Hopper shakes his hand, trying to create fire, but due to the fact that he is numb, it doesn't work. The butler cannot believe that the captain's chosen one lives in such a place. She must have used some kind of clever trick. Suddenly, a boy approaches the butler and asks if he is cold. Zion looks at the man good-naturedly, but he does not understand where this child came from. The butler irritably asks the kid to go about his business, but Zion assures him that the man looks frozen. The boy friendly says that he will give the stranger his warm scarf. Hopper tries to assure him that he doesn't feel cold, but when he takes the scarf, he notices how warm it is. Zion says that he chased the kitten and, without realizing it, got lost. The butler says with a laugh that the little mischief maker gave him the scarf only so that he could help him find his sister. Sean resentfully says that even if he hadn't gotten lost, he would still have offered the scarf. The boy says that according to his sister, if you treat people kindly, then one day it will be rewarded. Hopper never expected to meet such a kind child in the north. The man understands that even if the child is a wolf, he will not abandon him until they find his sister. Suddenly, an irritated voice is heard, and the girl asks how many times she told Zion not to go alone. Suddenly, Hopper notices none other than the captain himself, peeking out from behind the girl. The man abruptly presses himself against the wall, not understanding where Noel came from here, and then it dawns on him. The butler asks the boy if this is the sister who taught him kindness. The man understands that this is the girl Carmel was talking about, and she simply cannot be a wolf. Hopper notices how intently the captain and lady are looking at him, and understands that this will not lead to good. The man thanks the boy for his kindness, and says that there is a reward for such an act. Hopper returns the scarf to Zion, and says that his reward will not be long in coming. As he leaves, Hopper presses his hand to his heart, and says that he no longer feels the cold. Looking after the leaving man, Eve notices that he is very strange. Rachel reflects that Hopper seems to have taken a liking to Zion. Eve walks with a bag of groceries and reflects that despite the search for Zion, they managed to do everything planned. Remembering her conversation with Noel, the girl wonders whether she should just ignore his words. Suddenly, Eva hears words coming from around the corner. Men are clearly threatening someone. The unfortunate half-breed insists that she didn't catch anyone's eye and didn't cause trouble, so she doesn't understand why she's being persecuted. Peering around the corner, Eve hears a girl asking why only half-breeds are arrested and interrogated. One of the guys states that because of her they were in trouble, half-breeds made their way into the human world and jeopardized the reputation of the wolves. Raising his hand, the wolf declares that his blood boils at the thought that the damn humans can despise them. Suddenly, a man standing a little behind orders the guy to stop. The man approaches the girl and says that if she cooperates, she and her brother will be safe. The wolf asks if she knows her sister and brother, who have white hair and rare blue eyes. Suddenly, the men hear some noise behind them and turn around and notice that an apple is lying on the ground. Eva realizes in horror that it was about them, but they have been living in solitude for a long time. The girl begins to tremble with fear, deciding that they need to leave the north. Arriving home, Eva rummages through books, not understanding whether they can move to another place without obtaining special permission. Noel enters the house with the children and happily notices that Eva returned home before them. The girl absent-mindedly says that she needed to find something in the books. Noticing the titles of the books, Rachel directly asks if her sister is planning to move to the human world. Eva denies, but the girl says that she should not hide such information from them. The girl doesn't understand how Rachel knew everything. Perhaps they also know that she and Zion are wolves. The girl rushes into Eva's arms and says that she understands how difficult it must be in a foreign land and asks if she will come with her. Eve notices that Rachel's memory has returned, but she assures her that her memories are blurry, so she is not sure that she remembers everything correctly. Looking at her brother, the girl says that, according to him, in the south there is a passage leading to the world of people. Noel replies that they signed an agreement and built a passage to make it easier for the residents to travel. Eve is relieved that, according to the dragons, an illegal method of emigration does exist. But can the girl be sure that the south is safe for them, because they are dragons who don't yet know who they are? But sooner or later, the truth will come out. Noel takes hands and asks if she will give him the honor of escorting her and Zion to the human world. The captain assures that he will not allow others to spread gossip related to the north and will protect them from all hardships. Eva thanks the guests for their kindness and asks if all this will not be a burden to them. The man says that he will take advantage of the situation and take Rachel south, and that will be enough for him. The girl happily says that along the way, they can all visit their palace together. Leaning against the boy, Rachel says she wants to see Zion as much as possible. With confusion in her heart, Eva realizes that this is her last chance. If she continues to doubt, the only way to the south will be closed. If they see each other less often, they will eventually become strangers to each other. Children quickly forget everything. Rachel looks at Eve intently and thinks that she will never allow her to go into the human world. The girl thinks that very soon the girl will become her relative. Rachel will make Eve fall in love with the south and forget about everything else. The servant reports to the captain that he has brought the man he wanted to see. The bound man is thrown to his knees, and the captain thoughtfully says that this means that this is the herbal merchant. The doctor says that he bought the herb from the dealer because it is good for immunity. The man says that he is pleased with the doctor's dedication, so he will give him a chance to start over. Suddenly, the captain declares that, according to his information, in front of him is not only a doctor, but also a distributor. The man assures that the doctor was driven to everything by necessity and, throwing a bag of gold in front of him, orders him to tell everything about the merchant. The doctor says that the merchant pretended to be a man, but he is sure that it was a girl in front of him. The man adds that he thinks the girl had white hair. The servant notices that these statements are similar to those of the businessman, which means they are the same person. Captain Edmund states that the man they are looking for is suspected of assisting in illegal emigration. The doctor hears with horror that he himself is one of those who assisted her in this crime. The prisoner is taken away, and the captain says with a grin that ignorance is no excuse. Edmund looks at Eve's portrait and says that now he can finally help her. Noel says there are some formalities that need to be sorted out before the move, but it won't take long. As he leaves, the man says that he will return soon, and Eva replies that she will be waiting for him. Looking in the wake of the dragon, Eve hopes that if she gets out of the north, she will be able to live independently. Remembering Noel's face, the girl feels such lightness for the first time in her life. Suddenly, the girl thinks that she is very stupid because she cannot even take care of herself, let alone others. If Noel one day meets his destiny, he will most likely no longer need her powers. While they get to the human world, Eva will have to help the captain at his first request. The servant asks Edmund if he will go to today's investigation. The man nods in the affirmative. Edmund says this is his first assignment as captain, and he must be held accountable for execution. The captain says that since they go outside, they need to look at that place first. Suddenly, the door to the room bursts open, and a servant rushes in to say that he has urgent news. The butler scolds the servant for such disrespectful behavior, but Edmund tells him not to make a mountain out of a molehill. The servant asks for forgiveness and remarks that he would not have disturbed the captain just like that. The young man hands Edmund a tray and states that a letter has arrived from the dragon captain. Captain Noel reports that in 3 days he intends to visit the forests in the north, but asks not to hold a reception and also provides the coordinates. The servant declares that it is unacceptable to address the captain of the north in this way. It is complete disrespect. Edmund agrees and says that refusing a welcome ceremony looks very suspicious. Edmund notes that it is very interesting to see with your own eyes what the damn dragon needs here. The children report that they have collected all their things and will now go for a walk. Looking at the empty rooms, Eve thinks that she won't need many things to begin with, and they can buy the rest in the human world. Suddenly, the girl hears Zion's surprised exclamation and immediately runs out into the street. The children and Eve watch in great amazement as the sky above them is covered by a horde of dragons. Noel lands in front of the girl and says that he came to pick them up. The man apologizes for the sudden visit, and Eve asks who all these people are. The captain says that these are his most trusted people, and they will help them get to the south as soon as possible. Noel says that getting ready must have tired the girl, invites her to relax with the children, and they will finish everything themselves. Zion approaches Eve and asks if this all means that they will leave the north today. The girl asks if the boy will be bored, and he admits that as long as his sister is with him, it doesn't matter to him where they are. The girl kisses the boy tenderly and says that very soon they will move to a warm place that he will really like. One of the dragons says with tears in his eyes that he had no idea what the north was like, but it looks amazing. Suddenly, the dragons begin to discuss why the captain's companion lives in the deep forest and that their wedding should take place in the south. The girl has no idea where this rumor came from, but she needs to somehow explain the situation to them. Suddenly, everyone hears a disdainful voice saying that he was very curious about what the dragon forgot in the north. Edmund notes that it is now clear that responsibility for illegal migration lies in the south. The captain asks if Noel really expected to deceive him by giving false coordinates. Edmund asks for what purpose the dragon is taking the inhabitants of the north to the south. Is he really planning to get information from them? The man notices, "I never thought that Noel would resort to such a method." Suddenly, Edmund freezes when he sees the amazed Eve standing nearby. Having examined the girl, the captain realizes that it is really Eva in front of him and says that he has finally found her. Noel, in a rage, grabs Edmund by the arm and he demands to let him go immediately. Eva asks what the man wants here, since they already lived in isolation as he wanted. Enraged, the girl screams, demanding that the captain finally leave them alone. Edmund asks why Eve is angry, and she replies that he was the one who told them to get out. The captain coldly says that, as he expected, it is Eva and her brother who are going to move to the human world. The girl flinches when she realizes that it was Edmund who was looking for her and Zion all this time. When asked what he needs, the man replies that he has missed her all this time. Edmund asks Eve for what service the Southerners agreed to arrange her passage. The captain assures that he has changed a lot over the past time, and now he has the strength to take the girl under his wing. Noel interrupts the fiery speech and declares that there must be some mistake. The captain of the South states that Eve is not moving to the human world, but is going south with him. Edmund starts laughing and says that this is complete stupidity. How can Noel know that Eve is not going to run away? Eve calmly says that it doesn't matter to her whether Edmund has changed or not, but she doesn't want to stay in the north anymore. The girl asks Edmund, if he were in her place, whether he would want to continue living under restrictions. The captain, to Eve's surprise, states that he worked until he lost consciousness to take this position because he knew that the girl had suffered enough from racism. The girl is afraid that now Edmund will tell that he and Zion are half-bloods, and then the dragons will find out about everything. Suddenly, Carmel appears from the bushes with Rachel and says that they have finally arrived. The young man greets Eve, but suddenly notices that the atmosphere around is somehow strange. Edmund looks at Eve in shock and asks if she really is the life partner of the captain of the South. The girl turns decisively and provocatively replies that this is exactly how it is. Passing by Noel, the girl whispers and asks him for forgiveness for what she had to say. Eve assures that as soon as they are in the South, she will explain everything to everyone, but now this is the only way to get rid of Edmund. The man hugs the girl tightly, calls her his beloved, and says that it's time for them to leave. Edmund, in desperation, orders the dragons to stop now. The man shouts that Eve cannot even imagine how dangerous dragons can be. Eve is furious and declares that Edmund is more vile as he is the one who made her life miserable. The man looks after the dragons in despair, realizing that he has missed her again. The man thinks that now, unfortunately, he cannot protect his beloved. His father, a former captain of the North, always taught his son that half-breeds are not wolves. Everyone around Edmund belittled half-breeds, which is why he did the same. However, when his gaze first met Eve's, he couldn't help but be captivated by her. At that moment, the boy was too young to understand that he had become attached to Eve and was gnawing at the guilt for his feelings for the half-breed. But even so, he has no forgiveness for what he did, and from that moment on, he lived in doubt. On the way home, Edmund decided that he should quickly grow up and become a captain. Only by gaining strength would he be able to make sure that no one could offend Eve again. He would definitely do everything to ensure that she was under his protection. The captain orders the servants to return, and they are perplexed and ask if they should go after the dragons. Edmund says there is no point in trying to catch those who can fly. The man orders a pair of smart and trusted subordinates to be selected to secretly go south. Putting on his hood, Edmund muses that Eve has unclean blood, so her power could get out of control. The captain fears that the dragons may take advantage of the girl's weakness in order to brainwash her. All Edmund can do in this situation is to continue looking for the girl. Eva looks around in amazement and thinks that they are finally flying south. The girl notices that life is full of surprises, since she could not even think that she would go south of her own free will. Noel says that they are almost there and invites the girl to look at the beautiful view from below. The captain hopes that Eva will have only happy memories before she goes to the human world. Looking at the man, the girl understands that he is very kind, but will he remain the same if he finds out that she is a half-breed? Suddenly, Rachel, sitting behind her, says that what Eve is thinking about will never happen. With a laugh, the girl says that the dragons will not let her fall, which she is very afraid of. Eva begins to explore the surroundings, enjoying the stunning view. The girl remembers how her mother told her that dragons are not as scary as they might seem at first glance. The girl looks at her mother in amazement and asks if she has really met dragons. Having learned that her mother did not meet with them, Eva states that in this case she cannot know anything. The woman pats her daughter on the head and says that her great-grandmother told her. The mother says that in fact dragons are not scary, but very kind. Eve says that all this was a long time ago, but the woman laughs and says that the rumor that dragons are gentle reached their times. Therefore, the mother says, if her daughter meets a dragon, then she should be kinder. The girl reaches out her hand and asks Noel to hold her and Zion so they don't fall. The captain happily extends his hand and assures them that he can take care of them. The Northerners look around in amazement, and Zion asks his sister if they have really gone to heaven. This is not how the girl imagined the South at all. She cannot believe that there are so many flowering plants here. Zion looks at the butterfly in surprise, which he had previously only seen in books. Suddenly, Zion bumps into someone and asks for forgiveness, and the man notices that the boy knows how to apologize and take responsibility. Hopper pats Zion's head affectionately and asks if he's been doing well. Looking at the brother and sister, the butler notices that last time he was not able to greet them properly. The man introduces himself and says that it is too late, but he asks to accept his gratitude for his help. Eve recalls that in the novel, Hopper was a versatile person, but he hated wolves. The butler states that if the girl needs something, she will have to tell him about it. Eve says that if so, then she would like to receive a book in the form of a scroll, which is only available in the South. Eve is upset to hear that they have a library of scrolls, but it will be difficult to get into now. Hopper signals to the maids, noting that the road must have been rough. The butler suggests that Eve change into lighter clothes that are more suitable for the south. After a while, the butler reports that the captain went on business, and he invites the girl to inspect the castle. Ava sincerely thanks the servant. Although she is a stranger here, she is treated very well. Hopper looks at the girl in surprise and says that it cannot be otherwise, since she is the captain's life partner. The girl lowers her head and asks the butler to simply call her by her name. Hopper declares that he will not allow such tactlessness to be shown, but Eve assures that she would be much more comfortable that way. The butler asks what exactly the girl would like to find in the library. Perhaps he can help her. Ava says that in the north she could not find books about the history of the south. The girl admits that she would like to read the legend of dragons in order to help Noel. Hopper assures that it is enough for the captain that the girl will be next to him, but knowing the history is also good, so he sees her off. Eve thinks that she needs to be careful. If she is discovered, then Zion will be in danger. Sitting in the library, Eve opens a book, intending to learn the history of the southern continent. Dragons, whose lives are close to immortality, descended into this world, but could not get used to the new environment. But with the help of their wisdom and the red dragon, they managed to safely settle in the south. The red dragon became the head of the clan. He had a kind heart and took the weak under his wing. But in the meantime, some people and wolves mistakenly decided that the dragons had conquered the south. During one of the skirmishes, the clan leader was wounded after falling for the evil trick of the people. The wolf stole his heart, and the head could not cope with the excess of his strength with just one heart, and his situation was deplorable. The dragons went north to return the heart, but they failed to find that wolf. Eventually the head died, and a war began between the north and south. The whole country was destroyed. The war ended thanks to the intervention of the head of the mermaids and the head of the lions. After the claim that the wolf sold his heart to the dragon hunter, a second war broke out between the south and the human world. Because of all these events, the world of people and animals was divided, and it became impossible to restore good relations between the north and south. Eva looks tiredly at the huge stack of books and realizes that she hasn't found any clues. With her head on the table, the girl wonders if Eve from the book could influence Noel's heat, because she was a wolf with that heart. Although this is hardly possible, because then she would not have died from Rachel's fire. The more a girl thinks about all this, the more confused she becomes. Rachel comes into the room and says that Zion has had quite a busy day today. Looking at her sleeping sister, the girl notices that she is very tired. Looking at Ava, the girl thinks that she should be taken to the bridal chambers. Eve has a dream in which she is playing, and her father is standing next to her and reading a book. The man happily shows his daughter the flower and says that it was created by magic. The girl begins to swear and notices that it is tedious to quickly collect the herbs because she is already frozen. Suddenly, the girl notices with amazement that the snow, which had been falling for a very long time, suddenly stopped. Eva turns to her father and asks if he really has such an ability. The girl sits up in bed, clutches her head and wonders if she really fell asleep. Eva looks around in amazement, not understanding where she is and why she is wearing different clothes. The girl jumps up and starts calling loudly for Rachel and Zion. Eve freezes abruptly when she hears a voice saying that the children are in the other room. Noel looks at Eve with a smile and asks if she slept well. The girl asks in amazement why the captain is here, to which he calmly replies that these are his chambers. Confused, Eva asks for forgiveness and says that she will leave right away, but the man assures that everything is fine. Eva is surprised to hear that everyone in the palace considers her to be Noel's companion, which is why he did not prepare separate chambers for her. Getting up, the captain notes that if the guest is uncomfortable, then he will leave right away. Suddenly the man swayed and, to Eva's worried look, replied that everything was fine, he just had a slight fever. The girl, taking Noel by the hand, sits him back down and asks permission to examine him. Ava notices that upon returning to the south, the captain worked a lot and did not rest at all. Noel is very embarrassed, blushes, but assures that he is glad that the girl is now with him. Eve feels the captain's forehead and asks if he's really okay because his temperature is clearly rising. The man becomes even more embarrassed and admits that he was not blushing because of the temperature. Suddenly, Noel says that it might also be a matter of temperature and whether the girl would allow her to hug her in that case. Without waiting for an answer, the captain puts his head on Eve's shoulder and admits that when she is around, his thoughts are confused. The girl doesn't pull away and tries to convince herself that this is just a hug that will make Noel feel better. Suddenly, Eve freezes as she feels the man's heart beating so fast. Noel winces when the girl asks permission to ask him a question. Having made up her mind, Eve asks if the captain was not interested in why she lives in the north, but not in the guise of a beast. Looking at the man, Eve wonders whether he will like her when he finds out that she is a half-breed. Seeing the expression on Noel's face, the girl realizes that her question greatly surprised him. Playing it back, Eve says she's too tired and shouldn't have asked that question. Trying to get off the bed, the girl steps on her robe and slips, falling right on top of the captain. Embarrassed, Eva assures that it was an accident and that she will get up right away. Suddenly, the man hugs her tightly and says that she is right, he is really curious. Noel states that he would like to know absolutely everything about his mysterious guest. Continuing to hug Eve, the captain notes that if she wants to hide something from him, then he will not force her. The girl is surprised to hear that, be that as it may, the captain's feelings for her will not change. Eva says she enjoyed spending time with her father, who knew how to control the ice. Noel listens with interest that sometimes the spells of the girl's father did not work, and the snow began to melt. Noel smiled calmly and listened to Eva's stories until he fell asleep. Although the girl could not admit that she was a half-breed, the captain's smile seemed to say that he would accept her in any case. Rachel shows Phoenix one of the profiles and asks him to tell him that this maid will work for her sister. Sean rubs his eyes tiredly and asks why the girl is still awake. The boy is scared when Rachel smiles and notices that he has ears and a tail again. Rachel says that she is very worried about her brother. That's why she doesn't sleep. He should hide his features more carefully. Zion asks about Eve, and the girl replies that she is already in her chambers, and from now on, Zion will have her own room. The boy says he always slept with his sister, but Rachel insists it's time for him to learn to sleep alone. The girl notices that if Zion wants to grow up quickly, he will have to stick to the rules. Rachel gives her brother a paper and suggests writing down the first rule, that he should not go to his sister at night. Suddenly, Zion starts crying and says that he can't sleep alone because he's scared in the dark. Rachel voices the second rule, saying that if her brother is scared, then he can come to her in the room opposite her. Eva opens her eyes and, stretching, notices with surprise that it is already morning. Noticing Noel, the girl jumps up in fright, and he notices with a smile that Eve has woken up. The captain, relaxed in bed and stunningly handsome, gently asks if she slept well. The man hugs Eva and notices that he always has a fever in the morning and needs her help. Noel says that the girl's hugs are very pleasant to him, and the girl is scared of how loud he speaks. Eva flinches in fear when she hears something fall with a crash behind the door. The man notices that Eve's maid must have arrived and loudly invites her to enter. A young girl enters the room and says that her name is Julia, and now she will serve the hostess. Since the girl is a rabbit, her hearing is sharper than others, and she hopes that the little lady told Eve about this. A few minutes earlier, Julia stood in front of the doors, worrying whether her new owner would like her. Suddenly, the girl hears the captain talking tenderly to his companion. Julia, horrified that she shouldn't have heard such a private conversation, puts her hands to her mouth, dropping the tray. The girl bows low to the mistress and says that it would be an honor for her to serve her. Noel says that he will leave Eve with Julia and that they will see each other in the dining room soon. The captain asks if Eva wants anything special for breakfast, but she replies that she is not quite awake yet and does not want to eat. Eva looks around the crowded table in amazement, thinking that this is not even lunch, a light breakfast. Noel asks if the girl likes this kind of food, and she, looking around the table, asks if it would be possible to take the recipe from the cook. Noticing that the girl is blushing, the captain asks what the reason is, but Ava replies that they will not talk about last night. Much to the girl's embarrassment, Noel says that she was very sweet and charming that night. The maids immediately cover their ears and say in unison that they didn't hear anything. Suddenly, Zion runs into the dining room, and Eve is relieved to realize that she has been saved. The boy looks at his sister with pride and reports that yesterday he slept alone for the first time. The two young men bow their heads low to greet the lady, and Zion says that these are his new friends. A breathless Rachel runs into the dining room and notices that Zion is running very fast. The girl rushes into Eva's arms, saying that she has missed her very much. The girls start chatting nicely, and Zion, standing nearby, notices that Rachel is cheating. The girl states that she was afraid that without her sister, she would have nightmares, but the dreams were very beautiful. Zion jealously remarks that everyone is having fun, but they have completely forgotten about him. Noel notes to himself that this is the first time since his parents left them that he has seen Rachel smile so carefree. Eva makes everyone around her happy, and this is exactly what the man has been waiting for so long. Doubts have completely disappeared, and Noel is confident that the girl will become his wife and will be with him for the rest of his life. Suddenly, the captain hears a strange voice in his head that asks if he really believes Eve. The man turns around sharply but sees only the servant, who anxiously asks if everything is okay. Noel tries to understand what kind of voice he heard, and aloud assures that he was just thinking a little. The captain continues to think, and he has the feeling that he has already heard this voice before. In the kitchen, the maids, led by Julia, are actively discussing the new mistress. The girl says that this morning the couple hugged very tightly. One of the women starts screaming that Julia should be ashamed of herself for overhearing such things. Chief Maria turns sharply and asks who you have to be the captain with such ease. Maria attacks the girls, saying that Julia does not belong in the kitchen and it is high time for the others to return to work. Julia, leaving, angrily remarks that she is not that talkative. Maria looks at the remains of food and thinks that the Northerners are very picky, since there is so much left. Suddenly, one of the maids runs up to the cook and says that they are waiting for Maria on the street. The woman is surprised to learn that the butler Hopper himself is waiting for her on the street. The woman sarcastically asks if Hopper is really going to praise her, to which he replies that he is absolutely right. The man assures that everyone liked Maria's food and praised it very much, but the woman asks why then the gentleman didn't eat so much. The chef is surprised to hear that Eva has a poor appetite due to adaptation, but she expressed a desire to come into the kitchen and learn from the chef. Maria looks to the side thoughtfully, thinking that she is starting to like the new mistress. In the forest, Edmund asks his companion how long it will take to get to the castle, to which he replies that half a day is left. The captain of the North takes off his hood and joyfully says that he will see Eve again very soon. Noel is still very busy and asks the girls forgiveness for keeping her waiting. Zion gets carried away with his new friends, and Rachel asks Eve to come along. The girl takes her sister to one place and says that it is the highest in the castle, and from here the whole south is visible. Rachel says this is her favorite place and suggests they have a picnic. Walking down the road, Eva notices an amazing smell, and Julia says that it is Maria who is preparing the turkey for dinner. Suddenly, a man in a raincoat jumps out of the bushes and grabs the girl by the hand. Edmund, and it was he, looks closely at Eve and says that he missed her very much. The captain touches the girl's face, and she screams and asks in bewilderment what he's doing here. Furious, Rachel summons a fiery phoenix and orders the man to get away from her sister. Dodging the fire, Edmund shouts that they fooled the girl and that all this is disgusting and ridiculous. Rachel looks at the man in confusion, not understanding what he means. Suddenly, the captain attacks the girl with ice, and she, having received a blow in the back, falls to the ground. Rubbing his hands, the man declares that this little dragon is not yet able to realize his involvement in the rebellion. Edmund's companion notes with alarm that this is the sister of the leader of the South, but the captain assures that she simply lost consciousness for a while. Sitting down in front of Eve, the man says that it is very dangerous in the South and they should return home. Suddenly, Julia attacks Edmund from behind and screams for the lady to run away as quickly as possible. The servant grabs the girl and throws her towards the boxes, against which she hits her head hard. Edmund orders the servant to clean up everything here, and at this time he will take Eve away. The girl looks up at the captain, full of rage, and says that she will kill him. The man sighs loudly and remarks that the Southerners have greatly fooled her. Suddenly, Eve grabs the man by the throat and, summoning her magic, declares that no one deceived her. Everything around is shrouded in icy fog, and Eve screams that Edmund is completely soulless. The servants running up look in surprise at the clouds of dust and cannot understand what happened here. The fog clears and everyone looks in surprise at Mrs. Eve, who is examining her hand. The servants look at the girls and strangers lying on the ground and ask in horror what happened here. Some time later, Edmund barely opens his eyes and realizes that he is tightly bound. Eva asks the guards to leave them alone. If something goes wrong, he will call them. Looking at the prisoner, the girl says that it's high time they sorted everything out. Eve asks why things turned out this way, thinking that she didn't even try to explain the whole situation to Edmund. The girl used ice magic to kill him, but was thwarted by Ed's ability, and it seems to her that she had encountered something similar before. The guards slowly exit, announcing that they will be standing right outside the door just in case. Sitting down in front of the captains, Eva says that this is the first time they are talking like this, because usually it was she who ran away from him. The girl asks why the man is pursuing her if he hates her so much, but he assures that it's not like that. With his head hung low, the man asks for forgiveness for what he did when they were children. Raising his head, Edmund assures that everything will change if the girl gives him a second chance. Eva interrupts the interlocutor and says that she doesn't want it, she doesn't need it at all. The girl says that even if every wolf begs her for forgiveness, she still will not return to the north. Eve remembers that for the sake of the half-breed, no one went to look for her father and did not come to the aid of her mother when she was dying. The girl asks if the captain is really so sorry for losing his toy, but the man tries to explain that he never thought about it that way. Edmund says that if Eve just wants it, he will bring all her offenders to her, including himself. The girl silently listens to Edmund's confession that he is ready to do anything for her sake. Eve says that Zion does not remember their parents, and therefore often asked if they abandoned them. The sister assured that the parents had to leave urgently, but after 1,000 nights they would certainly return. Time passed, and the brother stopped asking about them and stopped counting the nights. Eva sadly says that Zion realized too early that his parents were no longer in their world. The girl says that if Edmund is ready to do anything for her, then let him try to return their parents to them. The man hangs his head low and says that he is very sorry, but it is too late. As she says that if Edmund is truly sorry, he will forget about her and never show his face to her again. Coming out of the dungeon building, the girl is surprised to notice Rachel standing at the entrance. Eva anxiously touches the girl and asks how she feels. Rachel looks away sadly and quietly replies that she's fine. Suddenly a voice is heard, and the mistress is joyfully greeted by Julia with a bandage on her head. The girl begins to bombard Eva with questions and stories about how scared she was. Turning around, the girl is surprised to notice that Rachel is gone. Having received belated news of what had happened, the dragons became furious. Now they had a good reason to destroy the north. But, to Noel's great surprise, Rachel stopped them, convincing them not to attack the north. Ed disappeared before anyone could come for him, leaving a handwritten note of apology. Eve wandered around the castle for a long time, thinking about why Rachel stopped the dragons. The girl wanted to carefully ask the girl this question, but for some reason she behaved strangely. Soon Julia returned to work, saying that she had been well treated and was terribly bored lying around. Pointing to the cute cat, the maid says that he often visits them and she feeds him. The girl says that she doesn't know if the beastman is a cat, but even if so, he's very cute. Julia asks the lady not to tell anyone about this, but noticing the strange expression on her face, she asks if she really said something wrong. Looking at Eve, the maid thinks that she might be tired of the daily routine or miss her home. A moment later, Julia shows the lady the glasses and a bottle of wine that she took from the stock. The maid assures that when there are too many thoughts, drinking is the best way to deal with it. Inspecting the scene, Noel does not notice any traces of magic and cannot understand how Eve was able to resist the purebred wolf. The captain recalls from the first meeting, the girl's power is not so strong and sometimes the spell quickly dissipates. While hesitating, Noel orders Hopper to prepare a secret letter. Turning around, the captain asks to indicate the recipient of the king's people. A servant comes up and asks for forgiveness for interrupting him, but there is a small problem. Noel is surprised to hear that his companion was the cause of the problem. Some time ago, Julia organized a picnic, insisting that when drinking alcohol, it is important to choose the right place. The maid flinches when the mistress asks what the girl would do if she knew that she would be killed. The girl thoughtfully says that in such a situation, most ordinary people would prefer to hide. Eva sadly realizes that everything is right and she needs to leave as soon as possible. Julia tries to open the bottle and assures that she personally would certainly try to fight in such a situation. The girl assures that running away from fate is not a solution to the problem. Pouring wine, the maid says that you need to look fate in the face so that you don't regret anything later. Julia watches in amazement as the lady drinks a whole glass of wine in one fell swoop. Having caught her breath, Eva thanks the girl for the wonderful advice that she liked. The girl wonders why she always thought only about how to avoid fate. If she and Zion leave, then Noel and Rachel will face the tragedy that should happen according to the plot of the novel. Eva understands that she wants a different future for them because they have become truly dear to her. Suddenly, Maria appears in front of the girls, and at the same moment, the cute cat angrily rushes at her. The woman looms menacingly over the girls and says that now it's clear where the wine went. The cook grabs Julia by the ears, scolding her, and the maid asks if the lady liked the wine. Suddenly, Maria is surprised to hear Eva say that the wine is simply wonderful. She doesn't know who made it, but he's clearly a specialist. Having released Julia, the cook says that if the lady wishes, she will bring a better drink and organize suitable snacks. Taking Noel to the picnic site, the servant notices that his companion is pretty drunk. The girl tells the servants the plot of one very popular novel in the modern world. The girls and boys listen to the lady in amazement and eagerly ask what happened next. The girl assures that now they are all friends, and the servants do not need to address her formally, they can simply call her Eva. Suddenly, Eve turns her head and happily notices that Noel has come to them. Looking at the pleasure with which the girl drinks the drink, the captain wonders who got her so drunk. Maria says that the lady liked the prepared wine and therefore she gladly treated her, but everything got out of control. At this moment, Eva hugs the cook tightly and declares that Noel should not dare to blame her Maria. The girl declares that cooking is very difficult, and they are obliged to eat everything that Maria prepares with it. Eva turns to the servants and says that she would be happy to drink another glass. The captain grabs the girl by the hand, takes the mug away, and notices that drinking too much is bad for your health. Eve hugs the man tightly, noticing how amazingly warm he is. Seeing the girl's eyes close, Noelle says that she has had too much to drink, and it's time for her to return to the room. Suddenly, all the servants flinch as they notice a tail appearing. Looking at the fact that in addition to the tail, the girl also has ears, the servants are surprised to realize that in front of them is a she-wolf. Noel abruptly orders everyone to be quiet and states that he will later announce what they all just saw. The man says that if someone does this before him, he will answer with his own head. The girl looks around in surprise, and the captain says that in order to avoid a cold, he decided to bring the girl to the bedroom. Eva is pleased that Noel brought it. That's all right, of course. Eva, still not hiding her ears, mutters that she has one big secret. The girl says that a man might be very surprised, so it's worth lifting the veil of secrecy a little. Eve sits up in bed and asks if Noel could move closer to her. In the morning, the girl sits down and cannot remember how she ended up in the captain's bedroom. Eva grabs her head and realizes that her head is just pounding how much she drank yesterday. Noel comes to the bed and says that he brought tea for a hangover. Taking the cup, Eve notices that the captain looks tired and wonders what she did yesterday. The girl doesn't remember anything at all, but since she's still alive, that means she wasn't caught being a wolf. Eva notices that she feels better. The tea must have had a beneficial effect. The girl thinks that the man is talking as usual. Perhaps his fatigue is not related to her. Eva reaches for the tray, but with an awkward jerk of her hand, she turns it over onto the bed. The girl wants to touch Noel, fearing that he might get burned. But to Eva's great surprise, the man sharply pulls his hand away, not allowing himself to be touched. The captain sighs, asks for forgiveness, and says that he was just a little surprised. Noel stands up abruptly and declares that he will inform the servants that the sheets need to be changed. Eva looks after the captain, not understanding why he suddenly began to avoid her. Over the next week, the girl couldn't help but do it. Why talk to Noel? They even saw each other briefly, only occasionally. Judging by the expressions on the servants' faces, Eva comes to the conclusion that they still haven't revealed her essence. One day the girl could not stand it and asked Julia to answer one question. The maid freezes when her mistress asks what she did the day she got drunk. Julia looks away embarrassedly, assuring that nothing happened. Realizing that the maid is deceiving her, the girl irritably orders her to tell the truth. That night, Rachel, having learned about what had happened, came to her brother, who said that Eva was unlikely to remember everything. The girl states that this was not why they pretended to know anything. From the very beginning, the girl didn't care that Eva was a wolf, and because of their position in society, not a single soul would dare to speak out against it. The brother looks at his sister and confidently says that they can still keep everything a secret. Through Phoenix, Noel calls Hopper and orders everyone who witnessed the incident to keep their mouths shut. The butler conveys to the servants that anyone who violates the order must be prepared to be held accountable. Julia, devoted to her mistress, declares that she is simply Mrs. Eva, nothing more. Carmel supports the maid and says that he has never seen the captain so happy before. Hopper grinningly tells Maria that he expected a negative reaction, but everyone is crazy about Mistress Eva. Lying on a tree, the cat washes its paw and thinks that the dragon's companion is a wolf, and this is very valuable information.